Welcome back to The Naked Connection. This is the show that supports driven men to reach sexual mastery and build deep connections. What's up, you guys? It's Kirsten. And before we get any further, take a moment and be sure to hit subscribe so that you do not miss a single episode. Today, we are diving into a question that really hits home for many men navigating the dating world, whether it's after a divorce, after a relationship ends, or just honestly, in general. So let me share this thoughtful question from one of our listeners. I think y'all are going to resonate. This is from Dale. He says, I'm in my late 40s, good looking, tall, and intelligent. I'm recently single after being successfully married for 20 years. After being married for so long, I really don't have the inclination or emotional capacity for another serious relationship right now. The women I meet who are attracted to me and I'm attracted to quickly push really hard for serious. How do I maintain and or start more casual relationships with women? It feels like it's the women older than mid-30s who are asking so hard. And to be clear, I'm not talking about lying to women and being emotionally shut off, like he says just sex in quotes. It's still connected and feels good. Looking for something that feels connected and good. Okay. This question, when I read it, I was like, we have to address this. I'm going to come at this from a couple of different sides as much as possible to get the most lay of the land covered here. Get really real about this situation first, because there's, yes, a lot to unpack here. First, I want to acknowledge that being recently single after a 20-year marriage is a massive transition. Your entire world has likely shifted, and it's completely natural to want to explore and connect without diving straight into another serious commitment. 100% understandable. And I just want to say this for anyone that's listening or watching, whether it's a 20-year relationship or a 2-year relationship, there's going to be dynamics unfolding that are really causing a massive change in your life. This was someone that you spent a lot of time with, energy, emotional space went into this person. There's a lot that's changed here. But here's where things get interesting and maybe a little bit uncomfortable. We need to talk about really whether you should be dating at all right now. I know that's probably not what you want to hear, but stay with me. When we go through a major breakup, especially after 2 decades of marriage, in Dale's example, there's this natural pull to fill that void. And sometimes we think we're ready for casual connections, but what we're really seeking is validation, comfort, a way to avoid processing our emotions or the pain or even the logistics of what is happening. So let's start off by first doing a quick check-in. So ask yourself, have you truly processed the ending of your relationship, ending of your marriage? Are you still carrying any anger or resentment? Are you genuinely excited about meeting new people, or are you more trying to prove something to yourself or others? Sometimes a relationship ends and they're like, you're never going to do better than me. And so then the impetus is to find someone better right away to prove them wrong, something like that. Checking in with yourself with these sorts of questions. And these are not easy questions to ask yourself, but they're really crucial to start exploring this question. Now, let's dive into something that might be a little bit upsetting to explore. It's the impact of the women that you're dating. This listener's example, he mentioned that women over their mid-30s into their 40s are pushing for something serious. And we've talked about this on the show. There are biological and sociological factors at play here. And these women often know exactly what they want, and they don't want to waste time searching for what it is that they want. And honestly, who can blame them for that? I understand, it doesn't feel good, and a whole other type of podcast to talk about women that are pushing really hard for that. And also just perhaps coming from it for a moment from the lens of, I can see why they would push for this. Especially you sound, Dale, like you're a great dude. And anyone else that's connecting with this, my chances are if you're even having this thought about this dynamic that you're wanting to explore in this kind of gray zone that you're wanting to be successful in, like you're probably a good person if you're even reflecting on it. So of course she wants to be with you. Of course she wants something more serious with you, right? But this is where we take it another layer. So you say that you're searching for something casual, and maybe any man listening, like if you're looking for something casual, I want to ask you this. Are your actions aligning with those statements? Because what I have often seen is that someone will want something casual, but they're actually having like these really deep, intimate dates, intimate conversations late into the night. They're planning these romantic dates. They're sending text messages throughout the day. They're being supportive and going out of their way to offer this woman help in whatever capacity that she's requesting it. And they're creating a strong emotional bond. If you're doing these things, you're essentially creating a relationship without a label. And that's where it gets messy. And I know that you're not searching for mess here. Think about it like this. If you are showing up as this intelligent, emotionally available man who's having deep conversations and creating genuine connection, of course these women are going to want more. Like, you're basically advertising that you're a Ferrari, but you're telling them that they can only drive it in the parking lot. Of course she wants to take you for a ride off on that I-5 freeway, okay? So what's the solution here? What do you do with this? Let's break this down into some really practical steps. I want to give you something that you can hold and walk away with. First, get really honest with yourself about where you are emotionally. Dale, you mentioned not having the emotional capacity for a serious relationship, and that's actually being really self-aware. And so for anyone listening, if you're like, yeah, I'm in the same boat, I know I'm not available for something serious, but I don't want to just be a total fuckboy. Thank you for practicing some self-awareness here. And that's really powerful of you to be able to acknowledge and understand that about yourself. I want to ask you, are you ready for any kind of romantic connection? Maybe what you really need right now is to focus on building your post-breakup identity, strengthening your friendships, pursuing interests that you couldn't when you were in this relationship, maybe processing through some of the turmoil with a therapist or a coach or a mentor. So starting there, first asking yourself this question, am I ready for a romantic connection, no matter how casual or deep on any spectrum? Now, if you decide, yes, I am ready for that, here's how to do it with integrity, right? With respect and integrity. So first is to practice being really explicitly clear about your situation from the very beginning. Not just I'm looking for something casual, because that can mean a million things, but being more specific. So in this listener's example, saying something like, I'm recently divorced after 20 years of marriage, and I am not emotionally available for a serious relationship right now. Direct and clear. And then taking that shared information and actually matching your actions to your words. If you want something casual, set boundaries and guardrails, not only with her, but with yourself. Limiting the frequency of contact, keeping the conversations lighter, avoiding this pull towards becoming her emotional support system, maintaining really clear boundaries, and being consistent in your behavior. This might sound kind of challenging, but let's say that you're like, well, but she came to me and we had a date, we had a fun date plan and she was really upset. I'm not just going to walk away from her. Totally understand that and so appreciate that. And so this is where that boundary comes in of hey, I'm here for you in this moment. What can I do for you? And also, perhaps we shouldn't be going on a date right now. Do you want me to drive you to your friend's house? Should we call someone that you could go connect with more deeply? That is respectful and kind, and also you're setting a boundary. So that's just one example of that. Now, those are the first two things, communicating where you are and then taking actions that are aligned with those words. And then the third piece is paying attention to signs that someone wants more and really practicing integrity with yourself to be willing to end things if your needs don't align. Remember, just because someone agrees to casual doesn't mean that that's what they truly want. And I will say this, there is a level of ownership that the women that you're dating has to take on. If you are openly communicating this, there is also a level of ownership that she has to acknowledge, hey, this man is telling me he's not looking for something serious and I should take him for his word, okay? I'm going to throw that in there because I don't want you to feel like this is 100% on you because, it's a dynamic. And then fourth, consider honestly dating women who are perhaps in the same boat as you. Maybe they're recently divorced or are explicitly looking for casual connections. If you're dating a 33-year-old who told you on the second date that she wants to have kids in the next 3 years, perhaps not the best connection to continue to pursue, just logistically speaking. Someone in a similar dynamic as you is more likely to be in a similar emotional space, and that can be a sort of comfort and understanding that you can both have together. Now, I want to share a really important piece to all of this. And please, I want you to really hear this. There is nothing wrong with wanting casual connections. Nothing wrong with that. There is, however, a challenge with creating deep emotional bonds while maintaining the pretense of casualness. That is really not fair for anybody involved. Dale mentioned not wanting to be emotionally shut off, and I 100% get that. And there's this middle ground between being completely closed off and creating such deep emotional intimacy that it naturally leads someone to want more. Dale wrote in about how he's pursuing women that are in their 30s and 40s. And what I'll say about that is that many of these women have enough life experience to know when a man is showing up as emotionally available, as intellectually engaged and consistently present. And that type of an individual, that is boyfriend or husband material. And if that is not what you're offering, you got to be super clear about it. And again, align those actions with those words. I want to give you a tool right now, a way to check yourself and really understand if what you're doing matches what you're saying. Because maybe you're thinking, well, I did these things. I'm communicating clearly. I feel like I'm not acting like I'm their boyfriend, but they're still coming at me, wondering what's going on. And maybe you've had some encounters where people haven't really responded well. After a while, they're like, what are you talking about? Like, I thought we were together. You said this and did this. To avoid that, to help you here, I want you to take a moment and ask yourself these questions. And I mean, like, really ask yourself. Be super fucking honest with your answers. First, if you were watching yourself with this woman from the outside, like you're sitting at another table at a restaurant watching the two of you interact, would it look like a committed relationship? Sometimes we need that outside perspective to really see what our actions look like more clearly. Second, would you feel jealous or upset if she was creating the same type of emotional intimacy with another man? If you're feeling that pull of possession or jealousy, you're probably moving towards a place that's deeper than casual. Okay. Third question here. Think about what you're sharing with her. Are you telling her things about your marriage, your pain, your fears, things that you wouldn't typically share with a friend? Because that level of vulnerability, it often creates bonds that go beyond casual, whether you intended to or not. Okay, the fourth question. When something good happens in your life or when something really shitty happens in your life, is she the first person that you want to tell? If she becomes your emotional home base, oh, my friend, that is not casual anymore. Okay, and finally, This is where we're being really real with ourselves. Have you stopped actively dating other people even though you technically could? Because sometimes our actions reveal what our words deny. Now, if you are sitting here feeling defensive about any of these questions, or you're trying to justify your answer, that's probably your answer right there. Okay. Sitting in that right now, let's walk through some practical ways to create connections that are both meaningful and clearly casual. I want you to have what it is that you're looking for. I don't want you to feel like you have to live in this box by yourself because you're just simply not ready to pursue a long-term relationship again. First, let's focus on activity-based dates rather than like intimate dinners. So thinking, what is a way that we can enjoy each other's company that isn't going to lead towards us having these like deep, vulnerable connections and conversations and experiences? Keeping it light and fun. And then keep a consistent but limited schedule of contact. If you're starting to see these women like 3-4 days a week, that's a lot, right? So maybe you're like, hey, I would love to see you like once a week on the weekend. Let's get together and enjoy each other's company and have this beautiful connection. Maintaining that boundary in your time is super important. And then be upfront about dating others if you are. If you are pursuing a couple of people, like share that with them so that it's clear, and you can do that in a kind way. And, I would say avoid meeting family or close friends. If this woman is like, hey, I would really love for you to meet my friends. I would really love for you to come meet my whole family. That's crossing a line. That's crossing a boundary from casual into a more committed type of dynamic. And really do what you can to not become overly involved in each other's daily lives. Deciding for yourself, what am I interested in connecting with this person over? What feels perhaps, or what do I think might be too far beyond the casual scope? We could get real business up in here and think about it like a job description, okay? Like the husband, boyfriend material, that's like VP level status in the organization. And right now, you got burnout, you're fried, but like you need to have a little income. So this is like all coming to me. So you're just trying to be a tech worker on the floor. And you're like, I got this number of hours, I got this capacity, I got this bandwidth, this is what I can do, this is what I can't do. Like really map that out for yourself before going into an exchange. And that makes it easier when the requests come, when the wave of desire from her comes in whatever way that looks like. Is this within my scope of practice? Is this fitting in within my job description right now? If someone does start pushing for more, that's going to be a cue for you to have an honest conversation and potentially close things out if they are not aligned. There is nothing wrong with wanting casual connections after a long relationship or a marriage. There is simply a responsibility to handle other people's hearts with care. Sometimes that means making the hard choice to step back from dating altogether until you're truly ready. Remember, just because you can date doesn't mean that you necessarily should. And just because you want casual doesn't mean that you're potentially even ready for it. So take the time to check in with yourself and make sure that your actions really align with your words. I want to take a moment here and speak directly to the part of you that's craving connection while having this resistance to commitment. Maybe someone's been a little bit farther removed from a relationship, but they're still in this dynamic. This isn't just about being emotionally unavailable or wanting to play the field. And, for Dale, after being in a 20-year marriage, you've experienced deep intimacy. You know what it feels like to be truly seen and known by another person, at least some point in your relationship. And let's be real, that level of connection can really become like oxygen in your life. And when it's gone, there's this emptiness that can feel quite unbearable or uncomfortable. And so it's pretty natural to want to fill that void, to seek out that warmth and understanding again. But here's what's potentially going on, is that you're in this impossible space between craving intimacy and being absolutely terrified of getting hurt again or of hurting somebody else. If you've emerged from a relationship, this fear of diving back into those deep waters can be pretty big. That could be present for you. That's not just about commitment or emotional availability. That's really your survival instinct coming online and kicking in. And it's trying to protect you from experiencing another loss. That fear is actually pretty wise. It's your psyche telling you that you need time to rebuild yourself, that you need time to recoup before putting yourself in that space again. It's like you were on the battlefield and you just got banged up in the leg. Like you need some time on the bench. You got to go to PT, you got to recover before you can get back on the field again. So the challenge is really learning to sit with that discomfort instead of trying to find the perfect middle ground of connection without risk. So maybe what you're really looking for isn't casual dating at all. Maybe what you need is to find ways to feel connected and alive. And that doesn't necessarily have to involve a romantic relationship right now. That might actually mean deeper friendships, more time with family, joining communities of people who share interests that you have, places where you can experience meaningful connections without the complexity of romantic involvement. If you found this helpful, please take a moment, subscribe to the show, leave a review. And if you have any questions, I love when you guys submit questions because we get to talk about them here on the show. And I know exactly what it is that you want to dive into. Please send them to thenakedconnection.com/question. Dale, thank you so much for sending this question. I know this is a topic that is very sensitive. And so I just want to be as respectful as I can in answering this question. And also thank you so much for bringing it to the table because I know for a fact, I know men in my life, friends in my life, men that tune into this show, clients, so many of you have been in this same sort of dynamic at least some point in your life. And so being able to explore what's going on and how you can engage in a really healthy and integrated way is something that I hope that you receive today. Until next time, let's get some. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Naked Connection. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode. Trust me on this, your sex life and that special someone in your life will thank you for it. And if you really love the show, please take a moment and leave a 5-star review or a written review and let me know what you think. It would mean so much to me and this show. Until next